Welcome back to another episode of the Double Doink Podcast. My name is Brendan Deek. Thank you so much for tuning in today, guys. I have a great episode for you today. It's been a long time, been a while. I haven't been on the mic in over 2 weeks. It's been great kind of getting some time off. But football season is fastly approaching, and we're talking Philadelphia Eagles today with my man, my friend, Thomas Petersen from the Breaking the Birds YouTube channel is with me. Thomas, how are things, man? You look tanned.
I do?
You
worked on it.
You actually look a little burnt.
All day. The only day I've been working on it. No, it's so good to be back because that means football is fastly approaching.
Yeah. So me and you were talking before the episode. We haven't recorded episodes since May 1st. It's been over 2 months since I talked.
It was the draft. Did the draft ever happen?
Yeah, exactly. It's been, man, this offseason feels like the longest offseason.
Right.
I don't know how to explain it. Like, I feel like I say that every offseason, but this one in particular.
And it's weird because there's been so many crazy things happening in this offseason.
Yeah. And then it kind of just died down, right? And I didn't take – I like to not take in football content for a couple weeks at the beginning of July, which I haven't. And now, like, this week I've been starting to kind of listen to podcasts again, kind of taking more football content. But I felt like those 2.5, 3 weeks time off was the longest 2.5, 3 weeks that I've had just kind of since I've started covering this league.
What sport did you watch to kind of cope with that, sport insufficiency, like football insufficiency?
A lot of Blue Jays baseball. Baseball. Yeah. I'm not the biggest, and unless the Jays are playing, I don't really watch the MLB. But I have a hard time following that league. It's so like every single day you got games, right? Like I follow my team, follow the Jays. Besides that, I don't really kind of follow the league. I don't know a lot of
so many games that it doesn't matter if they win or lose.
There's 162 games. Yeah,
right.
It's so that's what I'm saying. It's so hard to kind of follow like the generic league. Like I know there's a lot of just strictly MLB fans out there, and I don't know how they do it. Like that's why NFL is king. You got a game every single week, right? And you kind of build up to that week. That's why I've always said
every game pretty much matters a ton. So you can't really take a week off.
Yeah. Exactly. Thomas, I got to ask you this question because everyone's wondering this question. So I wanted to lead with this one.
Okay.
Could you beat Elijah Moore in a race?
I'll probably be called for a false start. And it probably won't be the type that you only catch on sensors. It'll probably be very visible. And then I would lose horribly. Yeah.
Poor Devin Allen though. That does suck for him for the false start.
Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah.
I've never it's kind of true what they say. Like nobody gives a shit about sprinting unless there's an Eagles player getting ripped.
I've taken more hurdles content in the last month and a half, and I have my entire life because there's an Eagles player that's in the competition. So I don't know if you noticed this, but so just for context here, if people are not understanding why I asked Thomas that question, you put a video on Twitter of AJ Brown and Elijah Moore racing. And you said AJ Brown won. It was kind of tough to tell. It looked like AJ Brown did win the race, but the biggest, it's a deep. They're like kind of far in the distance in the video. But Elijah Moore, you put Elijah Moore was 170 pounds, I believe, and I think you just got that from NFL.com, right?
I got it from his pro day.
Yeah,
this is about a year ago from the combine.
So he quote tweeted your tweet and said, "I'm 190 pounds" with a smiley face on it.
Yeah, it's like Elijah is 190. And then
talking about himself in third person.
Someone is very proud of what they did this offseason.
Yeah, well, he gained 20 pounds and it made waves. I don't know if you saw this. I was trying to figure out how to put this on the screen before the show. I got to get that going for this year. But PFF Fantasy Football took that quote and made a graphic of it.
Really?
Yeah, I should send it to you. I'm gonna send it to you right now. So July 19th, it said the caption says Elijah Moore is bulking up with a fist, like with a flex emoji, and then it's a graphic. Like someone at PFF made a graphic from it and put Elijah Moore now weighs 190 pounds via Elijah Moore.
Do you want to know what the best thing about it is? Is that the pro day numbers actually have him at 178 pounds. So he only, like, not to take anything away from him, but it's 12 pounds, man.
Yeah.
And then training camp happens and you're back to 180.
Yeah, I just DM'd you the graphic. You should take a look at it. I thought that was a good laugh. They didn't give you credit. They didn't even have your tweet there. Like PFF just gave you no credit. Like you started this whole thing. And like I like how it says via Elijah Moore is now 190 via Elijah Moore. Like it's the most ridiculous graphic I've ever seen in my entire life.
Oh well, it's July. Let's just
Yeah,
say that.
not much to go off of.
Source. someone, yeah.
Yeah,
Everybody's
source.
like,
Source. It's actually what's the one you put source question mark? It's like literally Elijah Moore said. That's funny. But yeah, so Thomas and I are back, baby. We're talking some Eagles football today. So training camp. So you said it before the episode as well. Training camp, they report Tuesday and then first practice Wednesday.
yep, exactly. Report on 26th, so Tuesday next week, and then the first practice on field will be on the 27th, so that's when we're rocking.
Perfect. So Thomas said we bring you some training camp coverage as it goes, but we're going to talk a little bit of training camp at the end of this episode. But I was telling you before, man, I've been sitting on like just Eagles thoughts over the last month, boiling in my brain, wondering
I'm
when
ready
I
to get
should
those
throw these
takes,
takes out.
ready to get all those takes out there. Get them out here.
Like, I think I've got a couple, like 3 or 4 good points here that kind of just dictate where my mind's going over the season. That this is like I don't want to put it like kind of like blow up this season and make it bigger than it actually seems, but this is a massive year for this organization and for the starting quarterback. And like, there's a lot of storylines surrounding this team. And why don't we start with the starting quarterback? And I'm going to give you a take that I've had or thinking about Jalen Hurts.
All right, before you take it, is it a hot take
It's not
or a bad take?
No, it's a middle take. I don't really have any kind of crazy hot takes. It's more of just like a generic what I'm thinking about Jalen Hurts. So,
what I was thinking for this year, and I also told you, like when we're gonna get into those conspiracy theories, because that's gonna happen. We're gonna make tinfoil hats.
Yeah,
we're gonna have a tinfoil hat segment.
Yeah, down for that. I can make one as well. I can YouTube how to do it, and we'll get that going. When I start getting my conspiracy Howie Roseman, who's running the show kind of theories, which are gonna come out at some point during the year. You already know it's.
If there are not any how to make tinfoil hat YouTube videos, I have no faith in the earth anymore. Like,
it's got to be. There's got to be something.
It's got to be. There's got to be so many.
Make some great tinfoil hats. But okay, Jalen Hurts. So I was thinking about like what he's going to look like this season, what season he had last year. Watched a lot of his tape over the last 3 weeks. Like too much Jalen Hurts tape. Too like just kind of looking at him. And my big overall thought heading into this year with him is, I think it's literally a 50-50 chance that he's a starting quarterback at 2023. I have no idea to how to predict what he's going to look like this year. I think it's a complete and utter toss-up. I can't think of another quarterback or another situation in the NFL over the last 10, 12 years that kind of mimics the situation that Jalen Hurts is going into now. A second-round quarterback draft pick who is thrusted into the starting quarterback role because the quarterback ahead of him blasted out and they traded him. And then the team gives him every single possible, I don't know how he gave him every single possible outlet to help him, but he did a darn good job, I think, this offseason. A.J. Brown, offensive line's good. Drafted Devonta Smith. Like, I think Howie did a pretty darn good job of surrounding Jalen Hurts with talent. I can't remember a situation where this quarterback like this, who's just such an uncertainty, is thrusted into a position where it's like, go prove it. Like, go figure it out. I think if you know or you think you know what Jalen Hurts is going to be this year, I think you're mistaken. Who knows? Do you like how confident? Let's put a percentage chance. Let me ask you this: how confident, or what is the percentage chance that you think Jalen Hurts starts Week 1 of 2023? If you were to put a percentage chance on it,
no, I think 50% is a pretty good number.
Yeah,
because there are so many variables in that can go anywhere. I mean, I think for I don't know what site it was to put up an article like MVP cases, because there's been a lot of like mostly just like jokingly chatter about Jalen Hurts as an MVP candidate, and I think it was ESPN that put up like making a case for some some under the radar names like a Jalen Hurts, of why would he be a case of making an MVP, and they put in Lamar Jackson as the comparison type, like a super dynamic runner. And after his rookie season, there were major questions about his ability as a passer, and he tore it up as a passer, very much assisted by his elite ability as a runner.
He led the league in touchdown passes that year, I believe, too, right?
Yeah, he did, and so he took off in that element. It's been kind of up and down since, but now that year he had, was it 2020 or is it 2019?
2019, I believe, right?
2019. Yeah, that was one of the best quarterback seasons in a long time. And it can go that way. It can fall completely flat. and look like the Bucks game all over, where it's just a bunch of incomplete passes and then a lot of running to desperately keep in games. So it can go either way. I think 50-50 is a very no, it's the same feeling I'm sitting with.
Yeah, like I literally think it's a 50-50. I have no idea which way this bus is going to go. So just from Jalen Hurts in 2021 season, like it's hard to kind of get a grips on how his passing ability is going to turn out. I think he showed enough where you can say this guy can develop into a solid NFL passer. He's 23 years old. Is he 24 now? Still 23, 24? I think he's still 23 years old, but he's still a kid, right? Like he's still a kid. Look, if you look at what Russell Wilson was doing at the age of 23, you look at some other quarterbacks that have similar kind of attributes to Jalen Hurts at that age, it takes time. That's the good side of it. Then I look at this on the devil's advocate side where Jalen Hurts was at Alabama. He was at Oklahoma. He's now in the NFL. It's not like Jalen Hurts is coming from Wyoming like Josh Allen did. Jalen Hurts has had the best quarterback coaches or some of the best offensive coaches surrounding him his entire life. Jalen Hurts was thrusted into the spotlight as a 17, 18-year-old kid at Alabama. He started right away. But like, again, like those are high impact, those are high schools with like high football knowledge, football IQ. He was surrounded by good players. So you have to think to yourself, is he just going to magically figure it out after, again, 5-6 years of being with some of the best coaches? So that's the devil's advocate to that part of it. And then, like, you take a look at his stats. Like, his stats from 2021 are all over the place. So he was 4th in air yards, which is a great stat. Like, he can push the ball down the field, and that stat proves it. He was 8th in interceptions. He didn't turn the ball over very much last year. 10th in red zone accuracy, 13th in deep ball accuracy, 17th in EPA per play. So that's a lot of that has to kind of do with his running ability, but he was efficient moving the ball. And then it starts to fall off a cliff, right? He was 23rd in completion percentage, 19th in QBR, 22nd in passer rating. So like his stats go, like the gap between the stats I just read is a wide margin, right? Like I don't know how this is all going to turn out. And again, like I tweeted this out. I don't think his arm strength is a big deal. I think it's more of his timing. Which one is worse? Again, who knows? But you usually can fix your timing. Usually you can't just like do bicep curls to get a stronger arm. So I think it's literally a 50-50 chance that Jalen Hurts is starting quarterback in 2023. I have no idea where this bus is going to go. I think it's a super interesting case study, Jalen Hurts in the 2022 season. I think he's one of the more interesting football players in the league heading into the season.
And he's also just the guy you really want to root for. Like you just get the sense that the team surrounds around him. And that, despite his age, only like you said, 23 years old, turns 24 in August. Despite his age, I mean, he is a very likable person, and he rallies people around him. And he obviously has the attention of the teams, and yeah.
Yeah, like he's a very, like you said, super likable. Like he's the guy you want to root for. It's like
just to give you because you said you like the whole situation you brought. A name just popped into my mind. Not a similar quarterback in type of play or style of play at all, but that not second round, but later round quarterback selected. Not really supposed to be starting, but kind of thrust into a situation because the starting quarterback fell off a cliff. Got into a situation where it could go either way. It was kind of surrounded by pretty good talent. I would say above average. Kirk Cousins when he took over for Robert Griffin. Just glancing over this, maybe we can debate whether or not. Yeah, 10 touchdowns in 14 when he took over, 9 interceptions. Wasn't really that great. 2015 had a pretty good surrounding cast around him. Like Pierre Garçon, a receiver. He had Alfred Morris when he was good as the running back. Jordan Reed, at tight end, whenever he was healthy. He had a breakout year that year.
Mm-hmm. That's an interesting one. That's actually probably the most identical one you can probably find. I was thinking Jimmy Garoppolo, but Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't really thrusted into it.
Nah.
They traded for him, right? They traded a second-round pick to New England for him.
But I think what aids Kirk is that he had to be the passer.
Yeah. He doesn't have the running ability. And that's the other thing with Hurts, too. One of the other things that when people kind of discuss is Jalen Hurts going to be a good quarterback in this league is when I was watching him on tape the last few weeks, he is a A1 runner. Like he is awesome at running the football. Like,
I mean, he
like
was
one
one
of
of
the
the
best
best
I've
in
ever
the
seen. Like, yeah, like
the most efficient runner in the league last year.
yeah, like he's so good at running football. He's so good at not taking hits. Like his running ability is not talked about enough. Like he is so good with the football on his hand in space, and the way he opens up the run game on the like with the offense, like it's it's not talked about enough. Like I know you want your quarterback to pass, and I know that's what everyone thinks you need to win, but his running abilities is like some of the runs he had, like that Denver game, he had a couple like huge runs. That was one of his best passing games too. Like the Kansas City Chiefs game, that's another great game to go watch if you want to kind of hype yourself up on Hurst. He was awesome in that game. Like he went toe to toe with Patrick Mahomes.
Saints game as well.
Yeah, like
they ran all over the Saints.
Yeah, and I think he had 3 running touchdowns in that game. That was the one where he put what's his face? He juked the hell out of that guy at the end of the game to kind of ice it. So I don't know what to think of. I'm so lost on Jalen Hurts heading into this year. Like everyone's like, "Oh, I want to see more," or he hasn't shown enough, and all this stuff. Like, yeah, I guess, but like, it's literally it's a coin flip how this is going to go.
You can also go back to the Bucks game. I mean, that's the game we're all kind of stuck with after the 2021 season, despite it totally over blowing out the expectations for what the 2021 season would actually be, because everybody thought that was just going to be a waste year, and then take it from there, reset everything, and then see what happens, and suddenly boom, you're in the wild card. And it didn't look good, but you were also at a position early in the third quarter, only down 17-0. I mean, it's only 17-0, but I mean, it felt like a lot more when we were watching it live. But looking back at it, when Jalen Reagor fumbles the ball on the punt on the 50-yard line in early third quarter, and the Bucks get the ball back and go up 24-0, that is such a difference maker in that game, because we've seen bad quarterback play for entire halves of playoff games from a lot of quarterbacks, even Tom Brady. I mean, Tom Brady has sucked for the first half, and then he came back in the second half and won it over. So, I mean, looking back on the game like that, that is such a turning point from, like, you could just see the entire team when that play happened. They went from disappointed and lack of energy to completely dead. Yeah. There was nothing left, and down 24-0 against Tom Brady and that Bucks team, horrific. But if they went 17-7, I mean,
fair. Yeah, no, I right, that muff punt was huge. And the other thing too with that game is the Eagles got off to such a bad start, and I think it was 10-0 before the offense could even do anything. The Bucks, all they did was they kind of played. I remember when Lamar Jackson's first playoff game against the Chargers a few years ago, they put like 9 DBs out on the field per snap. They just had a bunch of fast guys everywhere, and that's kind of what the Bucks did. They just begged Hurts to throw. He didn't have the run game behind it. They had to throw the ball. Not every team's going to be able to do that, and I'm very interested to see how if other teams kind of maybe copy that Bucks formula or that Chargers formula that I brought up that they did against Lamar, where you just kind of put 8 defensive backs or fast linebackers on the field, and you beg Hurts to throw. But if you do that, that opens up the box for the best rushing attack over the last 10 weeks of the season, right? Like there's so many variables to this offense, so many different ways that this could go.
But also, if you just saw Quez Watkins running down the field once or twice, I mean, that's a whole different conversation, because that would have been 2 long touchdowns right there. So that's just something you hope that Hurts takes away from his first season as a starter in the NFL. And we know for a fact that if anyone is going to look back on a season and learn from it and like work hard on it, we'll see if it works or not. We'll see if he can transition it. But if we know somebody's going to work on something, it's going to be Hurts.
Yeah, he's definitely attacked this offseason. Like I can tell, he looks more jacked too. He does look.
Oh yeah,
that's a muscle. Yeah, I think to end this Hurts talk, I think he's top 3-5 most interesting players in the NFL heading into this year. Like you can maybe put Tom Brady up there. I think Justin Herbert's very interesting, but like
because he also elevates the team so much. Like if he takes a big step forward, Eagles are a Super Bowl contender, because they, like, barring injuries and knock on wood that doesn't go berserk this year, from top to bottom. Maybe otherwise, maybe safety not so much, but I mean that's kind of a secondary position.
Yeah, well, it's Howie Roseman it is. That's for sure.
How Roseman it is. I mean, if Hurts elevates that, they've got such a stacked roster, stacked roster, and 2 first-round picks. I mean, everything changes.
it's a win-win situation for the Eagles, right? If Jalen Hurts pans out, okay, you got your starting quarterback heading into 2023, and you have 2 first-round picks and draft capital to work with the young guys. If Jalen Hurts doesn't pan out, you have the weaponry to go get a starting quarterback. Like this,
Right.
The way Howard Roseman has flipped my mind on this team since 2020, it's
bonkers.
It's baffling. Okay, let's transition to the offense, because I think how the Eagles run their offense is going to be also very interesting, kind of starting week 1. If you were Nick Sirianni, Thomas, let's say you were the head coach of the football team, would you go back to maybe how the offense looked from week 1 to 8, or would you kind of just tail off into the run heavy offense, kind of keep it rolling with how it worked over the last 10, 11 weeks of the season?
I think I would kind of mix it in between, because in the beginning, I think the idea was very solid, in that you would have a tempo-based West Coast offense that was really dictated on getting on the ball out early and setting up Jalen Hurts for easy completions, and letting the playmakers like e.g. like Jalen Reagor and Quez Watkins at that time. That's who we wanted to get those guys the ball in space with blockers.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is that they did not run the ball at all to mix it in with that. So it just became weirdly one-sided,
one-dimensional.
To a point, one-dimensional, where to a point where they just abandoned the run. And like, you could easily see a situation where you go zone heavy offense, where you just you run it down the throat of your opponents, and then you start building off of that. And we saw Nick Sirianni and Jeff Stoutland come up with a run game towards the end of the season, where you had 5 variances of the same play, where it would be a zone look, it would be a split zone look, and then like 1, you would hand it off to the running back. 2, you would hand it off to, like, Jalen Hurts would keep it himself with a split zone. 3, he would pass it out to Dallas Goedert coming out the backfield. 4, Jalen Hurts will keep it himself with Dallas Goedert as a lead blocker. Like, they used so many variances of it, and it worked. So like, if they can, adding the element of a Quez Watkins and an AJ Brown in the short game with blockers out in front as well, I think that will be a very good complement to the run heavy system. But also, now you have talent at receiver, where you can expand your route concepts to an extent that I don't think we've seen before. And I'm excited to see what Sirianni is going to draw up, because now he has Zach Pascal as well, who we may not put a lot of stock into Zach, but Sirianni has said that he's one of the most talented receivers he's ever worked with. So I mean,
he allows the team to be fresh, the receivers to be fresh, if that makes sense. Like Zach Pascal, like he's a number 4 right now. Like, you don't get a better number 4 than Zach Pascal.
Exactly. And just the fact that Jalen Reagor has moved from wide receiver 2 down to wide receiver 5 is massive.
We're gonna talk about that in a few minutes. I got a Jalen Reagor take. I think Nick Sirianni and the Eagles' offensive minds should have been studying a lot of the Tennessee Titans offense over the last couple of years, if that makes sense. I think they should be I think they should be putting in or installing,
like, run heavy, play action heavy.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, get the ball over the middle. I know that's what Jalen Hurts was his issue, but it's time to stack up, baby. Like, you gotta start doing it. AJ Brown, when I was watching some of like him and the Titans offense, he's at his best when he's getting deep dig routes, like those kind of deep crossing routes over the middle, and go balls. Like, just go one-on-one matchups. And I think the way the Eagles offense is kind of slated, and the way that the Eagles offense is built, I think that can match. I think if they call those plays, and if they kind of run similar style to what Tennessee Titans did, I think it can work well.
That's also where Devontae Smith excels the most. Like, Devontae has made some plays down the field and has showed that he can get separation deep, but he's not a deep burner. He's not a guy who won't, he won't make he's not an elite downfield separator, but he is elite in the intermediate space, the curls, the digs. I mean, he just has a flair for setting up defenders. And the same with AJ Brown. I mean, they're both physical guys, very different builds, but We both know Devontae Smith plays a lot larger, a lot bigger than he is.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Quest and Sack as kind of your deep guys there. So yeah, I'm totally with you.
You said something early in the podcast that's kind of stuck with me. Like teams are going to watch Quiz Watkins run by them early in the game, and it's going to open up everything underneath. Like you're going to see this speedster, like Quiz Watkins gets big plays. That's what he's meant for. It's what he's good at. He's the third fastest guy ranked on Madden or something like that. I believe I saw like he's one of the fastest players in the league. If you just
Yeah,
run
he is, and he's also he's going to be one of those guys in training camp where I expect him to come out and 100% solidify that he will not have snaps taken away from him by Zach Pascal.
Yeah,
that's what I expect from him.
Yeah, no, 100%. If they're like if they want to play 3 wide receivers, 1 running back, 1 tight end, like if they want to play 13 personnel, like you have 4 receivers. You got Zach Pascal, Quez Watkins, Devontae Smith, AJ Brown. I think you rotate the top 3 a lot, and then you mix Zach Pascal in there. Like that's a great 13 personnel look with Dallas Goedert as a tight end and Miles Sanders or whoever you want at running back. Like I have a hard time seeing this offense failing this year, if that makes sense. Like I don't think I think if this team's gonna have a downfall, it's gonna be on the defensive side of the football. I think this offense is gonna be in the top 10 in EPA per play, top 10 in DVOA. Like I think they're gonna be extremely efficient.
Yeah, I mean that's 100% the expectation, and a lot of that goes to a lot of that is on Nick Sirianni.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see how he kind of comes up with his offense.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, so another take I got. Eagles offensive line, Thomas. Do you think it's the best offensive line in the NFL?
Yes.
Yes. So I wanted to not be a homer and say that they don't. Like I didn't want to be that guy on the podcast. I was trying to maybe find another one. I wanted to go like top 3. I think they're 100% top 3. I was looking at across the league for some offensive lines. I don't think it's crazy, and I don't think it's a hot take at all to say that the Eagles have the best offensive line in football. And I don't think it's just from the starters. I think their depth is insane. Like if you take a look at their backup offensive line, like Jack Driscoll's got 13 starts, Sua Peta has 4 starts, Cam Jurgens is a 2nd-round pick, Andre Dillard has 9 starts, LaRaven Clark has started games in this league. Those are the back 5 offensive linemen. A lot of those guys could start on other teams, and then like you take a look at their starting 5. Like Jordan Mailata is blossoming into a star. Landon Dickerson,
that is the exact thing. Like, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you hit on it immediately. The thing about the offensive line is that it is so efficient and dominant, and we've just scratched the surface of what it's going to be.
Yep.
Because Landon Dickerson is going to just continue to get better. Jordan Mailata is just going to continue to get better. Those guys haven't even played a full season next to each other, and they looked like, if there's something we can take away from the Bucs game that was really refreshing and promising, was those 2 guys. They manhandled Vita Vea.
Mm-hmm. Ross Tucker, he does the Eagles pre-games. He was a former offensive lineman in this league. He was on a podcast I was listening to, and he said that offensive linemen, like the jump from year 1 to year 2 is always the biggest jump in their careers, just because they're not ready for the NFL game year 1. Like it's hard as a rookie, but once you're there your 2nd year, you pick up a lot. You start to know who the guys beside you are, because offensive lines have to work as a unit, right? Like it's hard to kind of just be jumped in to a new league, new system year 1 and be successful. Some players done it. Like if you look at Creed Humphrey, for instance, on Kansas City, it does happen. Rookie offensive linemen do succeed, but like my point is Leonard Dickerson could make a big jump this year as a guard.
It probably will.
Yeah. So I don't think it's crazy that the Eagles have the best offensive line of football. Like it's stacked. Like this is the meat and bones of this team is in the trenches.
Right. No, like Lane Johnson is I don't care what you'll see of polls and votes and everything like that. Lane Johnson's the best right tackle in the league. Still is. Jason Kelce is probably still the best center in the league. We'll see next year. I mean, he absolutely was last year, but we'll see. Age has taken its toll, and at some point, you got to imagine that it's going to be visible, but it just hasn't been to this point. So, top right tackle, top center. Mailata's creeping up there, definitely in the top 10 range for me. And like we said, when is year 2 when you've never played football? And Leighton Dickerson, we'll see what the ceiling is going to be, but it looked damn promising last year. So the only spot really is right guard, and we know Isaac Seumalo plays at a high level when he's healthy. We've also seen Right tackle.
Jack Driscoll.
Jack Driscoll. He played guard. He played really well until he got hurt. We'll see if Cam Jurgens can get into some of the can get into the competition for the right guard job. I mean, those are three really good candidates for the right guard position, and the two of them who are not going to win it are going to be backups.
I have a Jack Driscoll take for the end of the episode. So I wanted to ask you this: you brought up Jason Kelce. Is this his last year? Is this
I think it's
I think it is too. I was thinking back to how they went to Jason Kelce to help them draft Cam Jurgens, and I was thinking in my head like the only way that this is players don't want to be replaced, right? Like players don't want to have their team draft their heir apparent. It just makes sense for them to go up to Kelce if Kelce said to them, "Hey, this is my last year." I'll do it because of that, if that makes sense. Like I don't think they would have went up to Kelce and asked him and got him to help them like scout the second round pick in Cam Jurgens if Kelce didn't 100% kind of solidify to the Eagles front office and Eagles brass that, hey, this is my last year in the league.
Yeah, but I mean, I think both you and I can agree that Jason Kelce 100% has a future with the Eagles organization after he retires from the field. So I think that is most. I mean, who knows how long they've been using him in that role, but they're 100% molding him into like when he hangs up the cleats, he's still going to be with the organization.
He's going to want to be on the field. What about like a Jeff Stoutland protege?
Yeah. I mean, something like that.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
either that or in like developmental scouting department. I mean,
yeah, something.
They can 100% find a role for him there.
He's going to stick around the organization for sure. The only other offensive line that I think has a chance of maybe saying that the Eagles don't have the best offensive line is the Kansas City Chiefs. They have Orlando Brown left tackle, Joe Thuney, and then like they have Creed Humphrey at center and Trey Smith at right guard. Trey Smith was unbelievable as a rookie last year. He was probably the best steal in the third round. But the right tackle, Andrew Wiley, is a toss up, so that's a hole there. And
Orlando Brown is also kind of a toss up at the moment.
Yeah,
he's been dealing with so many injuries, so it's like, what's that going to look like?
He's playing on the tag as well. He's not signed.
He's not happy about it either.
Yeah, so I think that was the only team that gave them competition. But yeah, I don't think it's crazy at all. I think the Eagles are the best offensive line in the NFL, just from the depth wise, starting wise. Like it's a really, really solid unit. So
also going back to Jason Kelce, I think he is so affected by the whole atmosphere around the team. He's a very emotional guy, and I think he's big on leadership and how the team functions together. And we've seen him time and time again standing in front of the team, preparing for games and really taking that step forward, and being the leader and leading everybody in there and leading by example. And we've seen and we've heard many of the young players, and they're looking up to Jason Kelce. And it's like, I don't want to disappoint this guy. I want this guy. Boston Scott had a spot on quote about Jason Kelce saying, like, you look at this guy who is investing so much into me and my development. I don't want to let him down. I want him to get another Super Bowl before he ends. So I think having a guy like Jalen Hurts come into the organization, 23 years old, going back to all the things we talked about, for Jason Kelce to see him and how he rallies the team, I think that played a massive part in his decision to come back and play another year.
Yep, 100% agree. Kind of like, I don't know if you remember 2017 when I think did Jason Peters go up to who's the kicker again? Why am I blanking on it? Who's the Eagles kicker again? Why am I blanking on this?
And when? Now? Jake Elliott?
Yeah, Jake Elliott. Sorry. It was Jake Elliott's first game, and he drilled a 61-yarder against the Giants. Then Jason Peters go up to him and was like, if you miss this kick, I'm going to kill you or something. And he like threatened Elliott. Elliott's like, oh, I got to drill this now. Like, then Peters, I think Peters said something to Elliott before the kick to kind of scare him into basically drilling it.
And boy, did it work.
I think that's it on the offensive line. Okay, so last kind of topic I want to talk about, and then we'll quickly touch on some training camp battles before we get out of here. So you brought up Jalen Reagor. You brought him up saying that now he went from the second receiver to the fifth. I can maybe argue that the sixth receiver on the roster now, depending on how you look at it. Doing a lot of thinking back on the Reagor pick because I was a Jalen Reagor guy. I actually threw my old Eagles takeout on Jalen Reagor on Twitter. I kind of blasted myself. I think it's important for content creators to, if you're wrong, show it. If you're right, show it. People are always going to be wrong in this business. That's kind of always the way I've thought about it. If you're wrong, don't be scared to show. Let people know it happens. Everyone's not perfect. The Jalen Reagor draft pick has taught me a really big lesson in this job and how I look at football. When I was doing the wide receiver scoutings this year as well, I used the kind of the lesson as well. Don't look at what can be. Jalen Reagor, I think, had like 760 yards or something like that in college. He didn't have a lot of production. He played at TCU. Take the production in the wide receiver position when you're looking at wide receivers. Take the production coming out of college. Justin Jefferson, for instance, over 1,400 yards over what can be. That makes sense. I just feel like the Reagor pick taught me a lot about how I look at the game of football. The other thing is, too, I don't know if Reagor put in the work and the effort when he got to Philly to kind of be a great player. I think I was just too zoned in on the Jalen Reagor highlight tapes and how he looked in college and how explosive he was. And Eagles need a speed receiver than more thinking of how he fits into the football team. Because I remember I didn't like Justin Jefferson a lot because a lot of snaps in the slot, which is an outrageous thing to think about 2 years ago. I wish I could rewind to my 2020 self and be like, Brendan, you're an idiot. Don't be thinking about that. The slot is where stuff happens. That's where the NFL is transitioning to. You can play in the slot and be successful. The whole pick, I think, kind of just it's a disaster, if that makes sense. The Jalen Reagor pick was a disaster.
I mean, I think that's fair. I think the same goes for the Eagles scouting department and Howard Roseman and everybody who made the pick.
He's not going
to the same for JJ. I think a Whiteside. Although there you had the production. I mean, he was very productive, but he just the way he won was just It was a rough thing to like. I bought into it because I thought this guy who was just physically abusing people in college, but it wasn't really a sustainable way of winning. I mean,
no.
I think for me, it really just go back to like, are they good route runners? If you can separate with good route technique, you're probably going to be successful when you get to the next level. Jalen Reagor wasn't a good route runner. He just ran by people who were slower than him in college, and when he got to the NFL, he couldn't get off press. He wasn't fast enough. He couldn't catch the ball anymore because it got into his head.
Mm-hmm. So Georgia, I think Whiteside had 1,000 yards in his last year at Stanford. I didn't know that. I thought he was under 1,000. But yeah, he definitely had some production. He was a second round pick though. I always think people always rip the Eagles for not taking DK Metcalf over or JJ Whiteside over DK Metcalf. It's like the entire league passed on DK Metcalf a couple of times. He had the neck issue. Like I think the Reagor over Jefferson pick is way more
that's worse.
Egregious, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, JJ I think Whiteside was one of the most productive college wide receivers in the red zone that have been for many years.
Yeah. Thomas, Jalen Reagor is not going to make this roster.
You don't think so?
No, I don't.
I'm afraid it's going to be a money issue.
Would you?
I mean, if it was all up to roster construction, he wouldn't make the team.
Yeah. It's $2.4 million. You're going to save him for 2.4. Like it's somewhat a lot. Like it's not nothing, but what's the point of hanging on to him? Like if you take a look at the depth chart right now, you got AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, Quez Watkins, Zach Pascal. I think are 4 locks. Like those 4 are going to make the roster. Some teams only need 5 wide receivers. Is Greg Ward worth it? Greg Ward, I threw out there if I was a pick over Greg Ward or Jalen Reagor. I think they kind of do similar things. Like not similar things, but there's kind of same body type. Like I don't think if they're on the roster, I don't think you're going to be asking those 2 guys to be doing much different things. I think if you're a 5 wide receiver, I think if you're a 5th wide receiver, you have to be able to play special teams, and that's where those guys don't.
That's where the thing comes in. That's where Devon Allen and Britton Covey are going to be making the team.
Britton Covey is a guy I really, really like. I know he's old. He's an older rookie. He's 25 years old. It's not, again, I'm kind of an ageist when it comes to that, but he popped at Utah. He finished in his college career. He finished the all-time team record in punt return yards, second in return yards, second in catches, third in all-purpose yards, 6th in receiving yards. He led the team in receiving 3 different years. This guy screams 5th wide receiver. This guy screams like kind of punt return specialist.
Right.
I'm taking Britton Covey over Jalen Reagor. Yeah. Did
you
see that? The Rose Bowl or Orange Bowl? He had the big punt return touchdown against Oregon. That was kind of his highlight.
Do you think now that there's no Zach Ertz on the team, there's no really that locked in tight end too? Because the tight end room after Dallas Goedert is kind of a mess. I mean, it's not necessarily bad, but like you got a bunch of different body types there. Jack Stoll, your kind of traditional blocking tight end. Grant Calcaterra, who's definitely more of a receiving tight end. Tyree Jackson, who knows what he is.
I think Calcaterra is going to be able to contribute right away in the past.
Oh yeah. I'm 100% with you. But do you think that they're more keen on either keeping, like, do you think wide receiver 6 and tight end 3 or 4 is going to be a battle between each other? Because that's where I think JJ Arcega-Whiteside has a slight chance of making the team as that tight end 3-4, simply because of his ability to theoretically be a wide receiver, but also contributing in the tight end room.
It's funny, if you go on ESPN's depth chart for the Eagles, JJ Arcega-Whiteside doesn't make it on the wide receiver or the tight end, because he's got 4 tight ends here. They've got Jack Stoll, Tyree Jackson, and Grant Calcaterra. Is Tyree Jackson gonna be healthy in time?
Tyree Jackson is going to be healthy, but I mean that's a guy as well who I'm really looking forward to see how he actually looks after the injuries. He looked really good in training camp last year, and when he was on the field, in the very limited time he got, he could it could be all great. Like those 3 guys, like next to Dallas Goedert, keep those, and you probably keep 5 wide receivers, and then Jalen Reagor.
I agree. I don't think there's a need to keep 6 receivers on this roster. Like
probably not.
Yeah, and like you can probably squeeze John. I don't know if John Hightower can make it back into the practice squad. You have Deon Kane. You have a couple guys that you can kind of squeeze onto the practice squad where you don't really need to keep 6 on the roster.
No.
I agree. I think it's a great take. I think the 3rd tight end or the 4th tight end is more important than a 6th wide receiver.
Yeah, it's
or,
gonna be
or 4th running back or something like that. Maybe.
I really the only thing about Jalen Reagor is that I really just hope the decision whether to keep him or not is not going to be about money. It's going to be about whether or not he actually deserves to keep the spot.
$2.4 million isn't nothing, but it's not something.
Exactly right.
It's in that weird, like it's not enough to just say go away,
right?
But like it's enough to keep him. Like I wish I could kind of understand what the Eagles' plan is. Like, do they have any plan to add more money to this team? Because cap does carry over, right? So like $2.4 million next year could be a lot. Like that could be a good chunk of change that they need to kind of sign someone else to free agency, right? Like it's.
But I mean, bringing in Devon Allen and Britton Covey should tell us everything we need to know about how they view Reagor.
Yeah,
because that was where he contributed as a punt returner last year, and those 2 guys, Devon Allen and Britton Covey, are strictly here to be developmental wide receivers and immediate starters in the special teams return game.
Yep.
So those guys are going to be taking away the reps from Jalen Reagor, and they should, because he was actively losing games last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you brought up the punt return against the Bucks. Okay, we're already 42 minutes in. You want to talk training? Should we hold training camp battles for training camp?
Give me your most important battle. I'll give you mine. And that's going to be the tease for next episode. Ooh, we're back. We're talking Eagles again.
I have 2 big ones. I'm
okay.
Which take should I throw? I have one. I have a spicy one.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll see if your first take is so good that we'll have to hear the next one as well.
I have a spicy one. Like this is going to be my potential training camp shocker.
Okay.
I think there is a chance that Anthony
offense or defense.
Defense. I'm going safety here. Ooh. I think there is a chance that Anthony Harris doesn't make the team. I think there's a chance that he doesn't start or make the team. Looking up his contract, I was taking a quick peek. The Eagles only save about $170K to cut him. They lose about like $170K is the only cap savings they get. But if you take a look at that safety room, you got Anthony Harris, Jaquiski Tart, Marcus Epps, and Kayvon Wallace. If Kayvon Wallace and Marcus Epps and Jaquiski Tart show enough where they don't need a 31-year-old safety who played back. He was our worst defensive player on the roster last year. Am I crazy? He was torched last year. He was not very good. Jonathan Gannon does like him a lot from his Minnesota Viking days, which is maybe why to keep him. But I think there's a realistic possibility that Anthony Harris doesn't look good in training camp, looks slower, maybe didn't have a good offseason, and these 3 young guys maybe steal the job.
Okay. I think the sleeper in that battle there is if a guy like Andre Shakir.
I think it's Shashier.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I think that's
Andre.
We're just kind of on Andre C.
Andre C.
Yeah.
So like he played meaningful snaps last year. When they got injured to the safety room. So I mean, he's a guy they brought in. I think if he shines, yeah, I think you're right.
Am I nuts for that take though? Like, is that crazy? That's the one bold. That's
it's
the
not
one
the most crazy. I mean, if the young safeties were playing well enough, I mean, he becomes expendable.
And he wasn't good last year. Like, let's stop kidding ourselves. Anthony Harris was not good last. He was the weakest part of the defense. He got destroyed over the middle. The biggest problem with the Eagles defense was getting thrown over the middle. Like, the safety struggled. Like, why run it back with him? Like, I feel like if there's any slimmer of hope that those 3 young guys can possibly start, there's just no need to keep him on the roster. Was
Eric Wilson not on the team last year?
Eric Wilson was a linebacker.
Yeah, oh yeah, but I thought you meant the worst player on the defense.
Oh yeah, Eric Wilson was. They cut him early on. I'm just saying, like, I think he was the weak part of the defense. I think that's the one potential big starter that may not make the team. I think that's the one shocker to kind of maybe keep an eye on. But give me yours.
Okay, so we're talking strictly training camp take.
Yes.
I think we're going to see Jordan Davis and Milton Williams play a lot more first-team reps than we imagined in terms of Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave.
Okay.
I think they're going to mix them in a lot to kind of have that mold to see whether or not those guys are going to be able to take over on the defensive tackle spot moving forward. Because if they shine in training camp, they can follow with the first-team offensive line in training camp. I think we're going to see 50-50 split of Milton Williams and Javon Hargrave. Milton Williams, Jordan Davis rotating with Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave. Yeah. Bearing how they're going to rotate the D-line, what the D-line is actually going to look like. If like you're going to have 2 traditional defensive tackles in there, or is it going to be more like a 2-3 techs and a 0? So I guess that's kind of up in the air.
That's the Jordan Davis one, right? Like if you're going to put him in, like he's maybe a guy you just want to stick right up the nose guard, right?
Right. Yeah, because I was looking at the roster a little bit. I mean, there's, I guess the biggest areas of competition, like you hit on it, safety. That is a good call. That is wide. That is up for grabs. Linebacker as well, I guess, is kind of like I was considering if I was going to go with something like Nakobe Dean's going to beat out.
That's what I have. So I had 3 takes. I have Nakobe Dean is the number 1 linebacker on the team. Like I think there's a potential that he plays the most linebacker. Not even potential. I think it's a good chance he plays the most. If he's what they think he is, if he's what they drafted him, if they look at all the Georgia tape and they think this is the guy, he's all healthy going to camp, why not throw him right into the fire and see what he can do?
That should be if his shoulder actually had something.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I don't see why not. Like there's no need to bring him in lightly, right? Like he was the captain of the best defense of all time. Mm-hmm. Right. Like I feel like if they, in their minds, if they drafted the guy that they think they got, I don't see why he's not playing starter snaps right out the gate in training camp, and potentially he becomes the number 1 linebacker on this team.
All right, let me give you my second one.
Okay.
I think this is actually more spicy than the first one. This is absolutely more spicy than the first one. Kenneth Gainwell and Boston Scott should have just as many reps as Miles Sanders, if not more.
Yeah, maybe. I agree. I love that take. I'm very low on Miles Sanders heading into this year. Very low.
Listen, simply because I don't think he deserves it. And like it's not like it's not like he's bad or anything like that. It's just that he's had 3 years. It's been filled with like small injuries, nagging injuries here, nagging injuries there, drop issues, fumble issues here and there. And it's not like it's been a consistent thing every year. It's just new year, new issue. And I think the most important part for Miles Sanders is that where's the development?
Yep. Yes, he's been such a boomer bust guy. There's been injury issues. Are you paying him too? This is his last year on the team. This is hard. I have a very hard time believing that Miles Sanders, Howie Roseman's going to pay up dough for a long-term contract with Miles Sanders. Like he's going to be a free agent next year. Right. I also think the running back positions that's something to watch for a potential add-on. Like maybe a guy that gets cut at training camp. a trade. Like I'm gonna throw a Kareem Hunt potentially maybe out there. I don't know. His
Yeah, I
name's been in
just
the
don't.
trade market.
I just don't think so. And it goes back to our offensive line talk and the numbers from last year. Jordan Howard, Boston Scott, Kenny Gainwell, Miles Sanders. It did not matter who ran the ball behind the Eagles' offensive line. They were
Yeah,
averaging 4 yards per carry, each one of them or more.
that's true.
So it doesn't. It doesn't matter. It doesn't make sense to throw assets for a running back unless you're looking for a guy who is going to be that next level threat in the passing game. And that's where I think Boston Scott and Kenneth Gainwell comes in naturally, because both of those guys are naturally pass catchers who showed last year that they can be weapons in terms of creating first downs or touchdowns on their own, and especially on the in the passing game as well.
It's crazy that it's funny thinking back. Like Jordan Howard was the number one running back. He averaged 4.7 yards a carry last year. He was good.
Yeah,
He's still a free agent. He's
Boston Scott Boston Scott is severely underrated.
Yeah, I'm with you there. He's been awesome. He's been an awesome Eagle. He's been an underrated Eagle. Yeah.
Check out his contract though, because I think at the time that he signed his contract, it looked very much like a 1 year deal in terms of a proof that you were going to be our guy.
So
1
he signed
year,
a one year
175.
So
Right.
they saved $750K if they cut him. It's kind of a wash. He's going to be on the roster. I don't think
He's going to be on. He's going to be in roster room. If you're paying a running back like that, 1.75. I mean, he's not going to get less work than he had last year.
Yeah, it's not.
I don't believe so.
Yeah.
And if he outshines like Miles Sanders as well, he's going to get back to the team.
Yep. He was the kind of their goal line back a little bit too towards the end of the year. Like they
Mhm.
liked him, giving it to him in at the goal line. Okay, I'm gonna hang on to my other one. I don't want to. It's
Okay.
51 minutes in. We got so much training.
Oh yeah. It's so good to be back
next week. So I am going on vacation Friday to Tuesday. One more last vacation, headed to the cottage. Really excited for cottage weekend. So I will be back on Wednesday. Thomas and I will probably cook up an episode Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday.
Looking forward
To it. Tons of good content. I have a ton of cool interviews lined up for August. I'm really looking forward to kind of
you've been killing it on this.
One or two Eagles maybe potentially come on the podcast. I'm not gonna throw too much info out there, but I've got a really cool story on one of the Eagles that I've been cooking up for a while. I've already done a couple interviews for, so I'm really excited to show you guys that. That's gonna be kind of mid-August time. A couple former Eagles coming on. A lot of cool content coming on the Double Doink podcast the month of August. One last vacation before I kind of dive into football mode. Please,
Enjoy it, man.
rate, view, listen, do anything you can to help the podcast. Subscribe would be greatly appreciated. Let's get those YouTube numbers up. Tons of video content coming up. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel already, please do. Greatly appreciate it. And we will